Okay, so now we're going to start the process of creating the realistic version of the human figure using the formula-based system approach. So again, these are formulas that I've developed through the years to allow me to create human figures very quickly on the fly. So what I'm going to do first is go under File and go under Load Factory Settings, and I'm just going to do this to make sure that if you've just downloaded Blender, we're starting out from the same point. Next, I'm just going to go under File, under User Preferences, under the Editing tab. I'm going to click my mouse here under the Global Undo and just make sure that it goes all the way to the right to max it out. The other thing that I like to do under the Input tab is I like to emulate the numpad, regardless of the fact that I have a numpad. This is because I'm going to be using my left hand on the keyboard and I want to be able to switch the views in Blender using the top row numbers on my keyboard. It just makes it faster. The other thing that I'm going to be using is the trackball orbit style. You can switch between these depending on which one you like. This is when you're orbiting around the actual 3D view using your middle mouse button. Under the themes, I'm going to increase the grid brightness a bit. So let's go into 3D view. This is something you don't have to do. I'm just going to do it so you can see what's happening in the video. Just going to make sure that it just goes up to around 3. That's enough. Under the Systems tab, I like to enable CUDA. If you don't have this option, don't worry about it. If you have a graphics card, it's going to render a little faster. So I'm just going to enable this. You can see that's my graphics card over here. And that's about it. We don't have to do anything beyond this. So we're going to switch to Blender's new render engine, which is the Cycles render. And over here, you'll see that on this tab over here, it'll say device. I'm just going to do GPU compute. And everything's set up. So I'm just going to go under File and do Save Startup File and save it. So what this means is that when I go under File and then New, it's just always going to load up the same file, everything ready to go. Now you'll notice that there's a white box over here on the left, and this is here to show you the keys that I'm pressing, okay? Because Blender is heavy on keyboard shortcuts, so you can glance over here if you get confused about something that I did. So let's go ahead and shut off the lamp and the camera. So to select objects, again, you can just right-click these objects. So I'm going to make sure that I'm selecting the cube, or you can select it from here. Let's go ahead and just pull this down just a bit. I'm going to click off the camera and then click off the lamp. I'm going to make sure that my mouse is hovering in the 3D view. So if I press the 1 key, I'm going to go into the front view. You can see that it says front perspective. Then I'm going to press the 5 key on my keyboard. You can see now it's in orthographic view, meaning there is no perspective. And this now allows you to see the object on the grid. Okay, so if I do my middle mouse button to rotate this, you can see that there's no perspective. So if I press 5, you can see that this is now in perspective. This is bigger and this is smaller in the back. If I do 5, this is an ortho. So when you're in orthographic view, and if you go into the front view, this allows us to actually use the grid to our advantage. So the formula-based system that I'm going to show you that will allow you to create this realistic version of the human figure without using any reference will use the grid system. So to do this, I'm going to actually enable this option over here, which is called Snap During Transform. And this basically is going to snap to increments. Okay, so it's going to do it based on how you're zoomed. So if I zoom over here, okay, when I move something, it's going to snap to this grid location. So if I click on this red arrow, you can see that it's going to snap like this. I'm just going to move it back over here. Okay. Now if I zoom in a bit more, you can see that I get smaller grid units over here. So if I now move this, you can see that it's snapping to these grid locations. So this means that if I zoom in a little bit more, now you're not going to be able to see this. You actually have to go under the wireframe mode. If I zoom in, you can see that it opens up more grid units, and I believe this is the max that it goes. So this is really powerful because this means that we can use the snapping to our advantage and zoom in and do micro snaps to move things around. Okay, and this is why the formula-based system that I'm going to show you works really well with this concept in Blender. So I'm going to press, or actually just go into the solid view again. There's another option over here called absolute grid alignment. We're not going to use this. This basically means that regardless of where you move your vertex or your object, if it's, let's say, it's somewhere in the middle of this grid space over here, as soon as you move it, it's going to snap automatically to the closest visual grid location or intersection over here. So we don't want to do that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and go into edit mode over here. Now I can press the tab key to go switch between object and edit mode, okay, but I'm just showing you that you can do it from here too. So now we're going to do W, and this is going to bring up the specials menu, and I'm going to over here click on subdivide. So if I do my middle mouse button, you can see that what it's doing is basically giving me more edge loops. And you can use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out over here. Okay, so now you can see that we can see the vertices in the back. So if I enable this option over here, now I can see the vertices over here. And if I right click this, I can click on this vertex. Okay, so if I press the Z key, which is wireframe, which is the same thing as doing solid, and over here wireframe, you can see that that option has disappeared because I can select any vertex because I can see through the object. But if I have this option enabled, I have to make sure that this is enabled like this. Okay, I'm bringing this up is because we're going to be switching between these modes when we're building the figure. So I'm going to go back into my front view, and I'm going to press the A key to deselect everything. So if I press the A key, it selects everything. I'm going to do A again to deselect everything. So we're going to be using this key quite a bit to make sure that we've not selected any vertices. So I just want you to, for now, just click on this vertex over here like this. I'm just going to move it 2 times over here. Okay, we're going to now undo this. So you're going to do Control Z to undo this. So if you do Shift Control Z, you can redo that. So go ahead and undo that and A to deselect. So remember, I have this option selected. So I want to be able to, if I do my middle mouse button, I want to select all these vertices over here from my front view. So rather than doing the right mouse button, because if I do my middle mouse button, it shows you that it only selects one vertex over here. And then I'm going to go to my front view. So I'm going to press the C key. And what the C key allows you to do is simply select all vertices that come inside this circle. So if I do my middle mouse button, scroll it, you can see that I can increase this. So I'm just going to go ahead and click my left mouse button and just come all the way down. And then if I right click, it gets out of that mode. If I do a middle mouse button to rotate, you can see that it's now selected all these vertices over here. Let's go back into the front view. I want you to press X, and this allows you to delete the vertices over here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete vertices. Now I'm going to go over here and show you an option over here, which is the mirror modifier. So over here, you can see that you can actually just hover your mouse over here like so, and just expand this. But if it's like this, you can simply scroll your mouse wheel to get 2 more options, or middle mouse button, just press it down. So I want to click on the spanner icon over here. I'm going to click on the modifiers tab. I'm going to add the mirror modifier. So what this means, I only have to worry about working on the right side of my model, and it will duplicate everything on the left side automatically. I'm going to make sure that clipping is enabled. This ensures that the vertices right smack in the middle are welded together, so it becomes one object. The other option that you can enable is just click on this, and this just allows you to see the vertices or pick the vertices on the left side too. But it's a little confusing because if you select on this, if you move it to the right, it goes to the left. I'm going to right click this, okay, to get out of it, A to deselect. Okay, but I'm going to leave this option on. The other option that I'm going to now add is the subdivision surface modifier. This is the most used modifier in Blender's history, and this allows you to create organic looking objects. So you can see that as soon as I added it, it's showing that if you apply this modifier or just leave this modifier added, your object will look like this with more faces. So if I click on this in the subdivision, this is your view, and this is what it will look like if you actually render the object. So I'm just going to match them over here. You can see that I get more faces over here. So we're going to leave this be. The other thing that you can do, which we're going to do later, is that if you click this, you can actually modify the actual subdivision. So if I right click and move this, you can see that I can do this. I'm going to right click to cancel this. Remember, you can do Control Z anytime to go back to the way you were. A to deselect. Let's go ahead and disable that. We're just going to modify the cage in the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and switch to object mode and make sure that under the tools over here you have smoothing enabled. Let's go under object and then go back to edit mode over here. So now we're going to start to create the human figure. So what I want you to do is make sure you select the letter A to select everything, and then A to deselect everything to start out with nothing selected. Press the C key down, and you're going to go ahead and select all these vertices over here, and then right click to get out of this. So if I do a middle mouse button, you can see this is what I'm selecting, right? The reason I'm showing you this is because in your mind, that's what you need to get used to, okay? If I go to the front view over here, what you need to get used to is that when you press C, right, you're simply selecting all the vertices that are coming within this circle, and having this option enabled, you're selecting everything in the back, okay? And if you don't have this enabled, if I A to deselect, press C, and just do this, right click to get out of it, you can see that it only selected it. So if you make that mistake, you can just simply do Control Z and do it again. Okay, so we're just going to select on this and press C and just select everything. Okay, so now I'm going to start showing you how to use the formulas. Okay, so this is how we start out with. So I'm going to click on this red arrow over here with my left mouse button. I'm going to move it to the left. 1, 2, and then 3. Okay. Now I'm going to press the shift key down, middle mouse button. I'm going to pan it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to move this down 1 grid unit. So remember that if you zoom out a little bit, you can see this bright area over here. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect everything, press C, and then just go ahead and select all these vertices. And then right click to get out of it. Now I'm going to introduce you to a new feature in Blender, which is extrude. So if I do E to extrude, I press the letter E, it will now actually extrude this attached to my mouse. So I'm just going to move it down to 1 grid unit over here. Remember, this much more brighter area of the grid is 1 grid unit. So it will allow me to expand this object over here. So now I'm going to do it again. Now this time when I press E to extrude, I want you to notice right here in the header the numbers that it's showing you. E to extrude, and I'm going to come down. You can see that the number is showing over here 9 and then 1. So that is what is 1 grid unit is. Okay, and then A to deselect. So this over here is your head. This is going to be a neck area, and this will become the rest of the human body. So what we're going to do is now work on this section over here. So I'm going to now introduce you to another option in Blender, right? So we looked at extrude, and I'm going to look at adding edge loops. So if you do Control R and hover your mouse on this object like this, you can see that it gives you this purple line. So if I left click this, it's going to attach it to my mouse, and if I right click, it simply snaps it to the center between these two other edge loops. So if you do your middle mouse button, you can see what it's actually doing. It's adding this edge loop over here. Let's go back to the front view. So I'm going to leave this selected. I'm going to press the C key, and now I'm going to go ahead and select all these and right click to get out of the option. So it's going to leave all these selected over here. So from my front view, if I press the letter S, it will allow me to scale. So I'm just going to nudge my mouse to the left. Right click to get out of it. We first have to extrude this before we can scale it. We're going to press the E key. It's going to attach to my mouse over here. Then I'm going to right click to get out of it. Now I'm going to press S and scale 1 and then 2. Okay. Now I'm going to press S, and then if I press the letter X, it's going to allow me to scale on the X axis. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Now I'm going to go to my right view over here. Now I'm going to press the letter S again. I'm going to press the Y this time for the Y axis. I'm going to do 1, 2, and then 3. So notice that the green is your Y axis, your blue is your Z axis. And if you do your middle mouse button like this, you can see that the red is your X axis. And if you ever get confused, you can just look over here. Okay, so go back to your right view. So now I'm going to grab this green arrow and go to the right, 1, 2, and then 3. And then A to D select.